All right, microphones on, everyone. Good evening, all. This is a regular council meeting of the Arlington City Council. It's January 16th, 2018, 6:30 p.m., and I'm Rich Nagel, Mayor, and I'll be presiding at the meeting. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will have roll call. Councilmember Cowell.
Here.
Councilmember Highland. Here. Councilmember Hattlestead.
Here.
Councilmember Yashewski.
Here.
Let the minutes read, the Councilmember Michelle Batcher has an excused absence tonight. She will not be here. Otherwise, all other council members are present. Also, sitting up here on my left is City Administrator Pat Melvin. On my right, City Attorney Ross Arneson. In the audience this evening, Police Chief John Pedersen, welcome. And also Kurt Mink, representing the Arlington Enterprise. All right, with that out of the way, we'll move on to item 3, approve the agenda. Any agenda additions, any changes in the agenda? I do have one, and that is under new business 12A. I would like to add authorized change in Parks Committee meeting frequency. And I'll explain that when we get to it.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda
I'll
as
second.
amended.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilmember Highland, second by Councilmember Hattlestead to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. We'll then move on to the consent agenda. This evening, the consent agenda consists of the following four items. Item A, December 18th, 2017, regular meeting minutes. Item B, December 28th, special meeting minutes. Item C, January 2nd, 2018, regular meeting minutes, and then the bills that were enclosed with your packet. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Cowell, second by Councilmember Highland to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
I got a different version. Oh. He sent those too.
There are no public hearings this evening, so we will move on to item 5, addressing the council. Either of you gentlemen wish to address the council this evening? Seeing no one that is interested in addressing the council, we'll move on to item 6, announcements. Administrator Melvin.
First item I'd like to share with the council is simply a notification that public hearings are being held on CenterPoint's proposed 6.4% increase. For anybody who is interested in attending, a number of sessions, 4 of those are being held. One of them has actually already occurred today, Tuesday, January 16th, at the Blue Earth Library at 4:30. There'll be one tomorrow, Wednesday, January 17th, 5 o'clock at the Sabanthony Community Center in Minneapolis. There's one on Thursday, January 18th at 6 p.m. at Central Lakes Community College in Brainerd. And another one on Wednesday, January 24th at the Golden Valley Library in Golden Valley at 5 o'clock. So included in the packet was a copy of that notice, which includes the specific dates, times, and locations of those meetings. So if anybody has any questions, I can certainly answer them. I don't know that we have great leverage in terms of appealing an increase for CenterPoint, but certainly your option to voice your opinion on that. So The next item under announcements is some of the wonderful activity being done by our EDA Director, Amy Newsome, scheduling a session on January 23rd from 5:30 to 7:30 here at the Arlington Community Center, titled Successfully Selling Your Business. So there's a panel of 6 that will be coming to that meeting. There will also afterwards, I believe, be individual meetings that businesses can schedule. So if you are considering selling your business, this is a great opportunity to get some input from others who have experience in that area. So certainly the council is more than welcome to attend if they're available. Moving on to item C, just an announcement that the township's Green Isle meeting on fire ambulance coverage is scheduled for January 25th at 7 p.m. And I do believe that meeting is here again at the Arlington Community Center. It's not noted on the agenda, but that I believe is the location. So, item D, the League of Minnesota Cities. Several of you are attending the Elected Officials 2018 Leadership Conference, which is in Brooklyn Park, January 26th through the 27th. I believe that most of you have gotten your lodging. You have been registered through administration, so you should be all set to learn lots of valuable information to bring back to the city.
I hope they bring back a bunch.
They will. We will allocate an hour on that agenda just to hear what a wealth of information
An
they've
hour?
gathered.
Maybe
If you'd like more, Tom, we can give you more.
Is that hour each or 20 minutes each to make 1 hour? We better take notebooks, man.
Either one sounds like a lot.
Just wanted to announce to the public that the city offices will be closed on Monday, February 19th for the President's Day holiday. And then last but not least under announcements, the council meeting has been rescheduled for Tuesday, February 20th at 6:30 in light of being closed that prior Monday. So those are the announcements, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any questions on the announcements? Okay, we'll then move on to communications.
First item that you have in your council packet is the wastewater report for November provided by Lee Ortleff, Louis, and Brian. One of the items that you'll see on there, and something that I've been in discussion with Attorney Arneson about, is an item located at the bottom of that first page where it talks about responding to a water main break on the west side of the hospital. This involved a situation where the excavator accidentally hit the water main, causing damages. The water had to be abruptly shut off, at which point then there was damage found further down the line. I've come to learn that that's a situation called water hammering, where when you shut something off abruptly, it can cause damage further down the line. I have, in talking with Attorney Arneson, we have put a letter out to Fratelloni, who is the one who was doing the digging, indicating to them that we are not going to pay the Litzau bill at this time, but that we believe it's either something between Fratelloni, Kraus Anderson, and whoever else. One of the things that I heard was that they alleged that the water main line was not properly marked or located, which in talking with some other individuals, that's yet to be found. So I'm not sure exactly where we are. The letters have gone out. I will follow up to make sure that they have received the letters, and then I think it's a matter of waiting to see who accepts responsibility. But in talking with Attorney Arneson, we don't believe that it's the city's fault and that we should be paying the bill for that additional work that was incurred. So I will certainly keep you updated as we hear more, or if we don't hear more, we will wait until something does happen. But just wanted to clarify that because that was one of the items that was pointed out here in the update from People Services. So.
Okay.
The next item then is the police report, and we have Chief John Pedersen here.
Might have to hit the button on the microphone there. There you go.
All right,
Welcome.
thank you. So, just to update you a little bit about kind of what we've been doing down at the police department. We talked about the 10-hour shifts being implemented. We did start those on Saturday. I'm going to be looking at multiple shifts with the officers. We've looked at a few of the call load days, noting that Sunday, Monday, and Tuesdays are pretty light when it gets into the evening hours. So we're going to try and adjust and flex some of those hours into some of the 2 to 12, maybe 3 to 1, possibly even a 1 to 11, 1 in the afternoon to 11 p.m. And then we'll have an officer on call whenever that officer gets off shift at that later hour. And just kind of try it a little bit and see if on the weekend we can get a little bit more visibility during the day as well. With the 10-hour shifts, I just would remind you again that is going to give me 2 extra shifts per month per officer. So we're going to be able to slide that officer in on some day shifts, maybe when I'm working as well, and get them in maybe on a weekend, and just some more flexibility. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that works. Talked to a few other agencies, and they've said that they've seen some success in doing it that way as well. It'll also help out with our training days that we need to get something done with all 3 of us. We can schedule that and make it work so that it doesn't cost the department or the city anything else. As far as some communication with Pat about the K-9 situation and our squad car, we kind of have a few things that need to be looked at with the 2013 Chevy Impala. So if we are going to move forward with the K-9, there's the option for the rear seating area for the dog, and then there's a heat sensor that could get put in there. In addition to that, we also just received the WatchGuard video system. So I have all of the components for that now. We just got it last week, and we just got the last of the components, I should say. So I contacted this company called Cops out of Hutchinson. You guys are probably familiar with it more than me. And in talking with him, he's willing to do the 2013 setup for our WatchGuard system, and he's going to be getting me a quote on that coming up here as well. So I'll submit that as soon as I get it. And that he said that could include the heat sensor if we choose to go that direction with it as well. We do have some equipment coming for our tasers, just some upgrades on new batteries and discharge probes, I guess you would call it. Once we get those, we're going to have to get spun up on a training, so we're going to connect with Gaylord Police Department. They have one of their officers as a taser instructor as well, so we're going to get all 3 of us spun up on that for use of force reasons as soon as we can. I'm hoping those items come in within the next couple weeks as well. I don't know if it's appropriate to get into some calls that we just recently had, but just to kind of shed some light into the public as well. We had a fire last week on the 10th, and we were able to determine that it was an accidental fire. There was a stove that was a wood-burning stove that was burning in this building. The gentleman wasn't real quick to come forward, but finally did, and explained what happened. So it was just a lack of being able to extinguish it before he left, where it reignited, and best we can determine, working with the fire marshal and the fire chief here, it wasn't accidental. So we know that we don't have somebody going around and randomly starting fires. Was our biggest concern. In lieu of that, we did have another fire, I guess, last night, and that was just a cooking fire. So everybody be careful with your grease. We're working with Redwood Falls Police Department on a theft. They actually had a flatbed trailer that was stolen up there mid-December, and we recovered it alongside of the Dollar General store. And it was actually empty at the time that we recovered it, but working with the Dollar General manager and the employees that were there, we were able to identify the two parties that were moving the trailer around. So Redwood Falls PD is moving towards a identification and charges, I guess, of those two folks. They did realize that there were, I think it was over 9 snow blowers that were brand new on the trailer. It was taken empty, loaded with the trailer or the snow blowers, and then driven down here, and it must have had a breakdown alongside the highway, and they were able to limp it into that location. So just letting you know, we are seeing some activity in the area as well, and working on some things too. The new rifles are in the squad cars and secured. We had a little problem with the 2013 Impala letting go of the gun locks. We did finally figure out you have to push 2 buttons at the same time while it's in drive, and raise your left hand and tap your brake finish. A crazy bunch of things that needed to be done, but we did finally get those items figured out as well. Other than that, I am working on rewriting some of the policy and updating some of our policy and guidelines for responding to calls. There's been some question about like the snow removal and how we're going to implement that. So I'm trying to get that in writing so there's no question as far as any officers that are working when they come in. We have implemented a text messaging, so when it has been declared a snow emergency, myself, Pat, the officers, the city admin will be notified via a text message so we all know. And at that point, we'll be hoping that a Facebook message could also go out to the public and letting them know that we are going to be moving to tag. And then the city needs to know their policy that within 12 hours after that, there is a potential to be towed after. So trying to make that a little bit more smoothly implemented so we have less complaints.
And that 2-inch depth determination is by city maintenance worker Weckworth, right?
Correct. Not trying to throw him under the bus, but
No.
correct.
But somebody's got to do it.
Yes. So along with that, the FTO process is still going forward with Sarah, and going very well actually. And I think that's just going to be a day-by-day kind of thing, ongoing for the next few weeks. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for the chief?
I think the only question I have is on the Facebook notification of the snow plowing. If you're on the Arlington Facebook page, do you automatically get notification?
If that's what you've selected, if you subscribe to the page and you have elected to receive notification whenever something gets posted, then yes, you will receive that notification.
Okay.
It will be up to the Facebook user.
I think
Yes.
you probably have to click like, you know, when you get in the
Right.
page initially, just one time, click like, and then from then on you'll be,
Okay, yeah, I do get some updates on.
yeah,
I,
you probably
have we had a snow notification yet?
Was there one a few days ago, 2-inch?
They did do
There
one
was.
just a few days
Okay.
ago. The process, I don't believe, was followed exactly, and that's why we're going to be putting it in writing a little bit more
Okay.
detailed.
And I don't believe the intent was that the city's not going to do anything without first posting on Facebook. The intent is that Facebook is going to just enhance our ability to reach out to citizens if they're paying attention to that, to give them advance notice. But I mean, that doesn't, if it's not on Facebook, it doesn't mean that we're not plowing,
Right,
correct, John?
correct. The signs, the posting of all the signs meets all of the requirements by the law. It is the citizens' responsibility to be aware of their surroundings and be paying attention to when the snow actually hits. We have put out yellow parking notices on numerous vehicles. We've made every attempt through the month of December to try and educate the public again as a courtesy. And at this point, once Kirby starts doing the plowing, the necessity is to get the roads clean. So we are just gonna have to go ahead and do our jobs.
Maybe
That-
just one more note too is, working with John, we are scheduling a police committee, meeting for tomorrow at 4 o'clock, so. I don't know if you wanna tell them kind of the purpose of that meeting is to talk about the K-9 and look into some of the information that was obtained from the League of Minnesota Cities, on that topic, so.
I don't know that I have too much more to add, but yeah,
Yeah.
just to
Okay.
touch base and then be able to bring that back to you guys.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief? Thank you.
you.
Appreciate your,
Thank you,
being
keep
here.
doing what you're doing.
building.
Then moving down onto item C, December year-end building report. On the desk in front of you is a copy of the December permits and then a year-end summary. So. Is there any questions or any comments or discussion? Mayor Nagel pointed out it's a relatively good year to see this much going on for 2017 and probably a lot of it driven by Northwind drying.
Good. We hope that keeps up.
There were 4 new constructions. 2017
Um,
on the big sheet.
yeah, well, one would be Semstone,
Okay.
and then, maybe a house, is that house? The house next to this old house?
Yeah, Trish.
That was in 17.
That other business out by Sunstone too?
Where?
Yeah,
That other,
the diesel.
the
Oh,
diesel
yeah,
exhaust
yeah,
Diesel
right.
place was
The
17
diesel,
also.
the, can't think of the name of it,
Can't even.
help me if you, on the Dresden property.
Oh, okay, fine.
That's 3,
Pilot.
yeah,
Yeah, pilot.
pilot, there you go. So we got 3, there's one somewhere else.
I guess I wasn't thinking commercial properties.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any questions on that?
Then moving on to the next item, December year-end financial reports. I'm going to have to double back. I don't know that I have that included in the packet and, so I'll make,
Put that next
yep, I'll get that next.
February?
Next February, I'm sorry, I didn't, I might have accidentally overlooked that, so.
Okay,
And then last but not least, wanted to share with you a note that was received from Scott Hammerschmidt, an individual. I'll read to you what was written. Dear City Council, just wanted to compliment your city on the holiday lights on Main Street. I take the time to pass every year to look at them with my family. All the towns have the new, cheaper looking lights. You have the real deal. Keep them safe and don't ever change them. New is not always better. Look forward to seeing them again next year. Scott Hammerschmidt, City Assessor, Lamberton, Minnesota. So,
great.
We gotta take every compliment we get, right?
We need more of those.
All
Should
right.
switch the camera so everybody can see our smiling
Oh,
face.
yes, that's true. Everybody smile, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've seen enough of John and Kurt.
All right, we'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. There are no ordinances for action tonight, but there are a few resolutions. First one being Resolution 11-2018, interim use permit, outdoor storage, Northland Drying, 100 Henderson Road.
The recommendation coming from Cynthia Smith Strack from Strack Consulting LLC is that we proceed to approve the request based on the fact that it complies with our zoning ordinances with the addition of 11 conditions. And would you like to read the 11 conditions?
I certainly
Mr.
can.
Mayor?
This would be part of the resolution then. The 11 conditions are, number one, the interim use is defined as 10 outdoor bulk storage tanks at 100 Henderson Road used in conjunction with a pet food ingredient processing operation. Inbound ingredient product and outbound finished product will be stored in the bins. This product being stored is non-flammable, non-toxic, and non-hazardous. Item 2, the site is defined as and limited to Lot 3, Block 2, Seneca Foods, City of Arlington, Sibley County, Minnesota, property identification number 31.0674000 as existing on January 4th, 2018, the date of the public hearing. Item 3, the approved use is limited to the site defined above and at all times shall meet the conditions set forth herein. Item 4, the approval shall expire 1 year after the date of approval unless the applicant has placed the bins on site. Item 5, the interim use permit shall expire upon sale of the property, decommissioning of the storage bins, a change in property use, or of processing at the site which renders the bins obsolete. The bins shall be removed from the property at that time at a cost of the property owner following expiration of the interim use permit. Item 6, the bins shall be painted in a uniform color selection designed to minimize the presence of the bins on site. The bins shall be maintained in good condition, suitable to minimize the presence of the bins on site. Item 7, the permit is subject to all applicable codes, regulations, and ordinances, and violation thereof shall be grounds for revocation. Item 8, the city may revoke the interim use permit upon violation of the interim use permit standards in the city code or violation of the conditions of this resolution. Item 9, the interim use permit under this resolution shall expire, a little wording confusion there, shall expire with no further action of the city if the use ceases for more than 12 consecutive months. Item 10, approval of the interim use permit does not approve any future expansion or associated improvements on site. And lastly, item 11, any modifications not defined as minor by the zoning administrator shall require separate site plan approval.
I have one question, Mr. Mayor. How big are these storage units? Do we know? Are they
Capacity-wise,
bigger than the bread box?
they are bigger than the bread box.
Quite a bit bigger. They're laying down there on the
Are
ground.
those the ones that are laying down by one of the
Yeah,
buildings?
if they're laying down there and have legs on, those are the ones
Okay.
probably. I don't know, is it defined in there, the size of
Thought on
the?
the legs, weren't they like,
Okay,
were they 60 feet?
60 feet tall? Do you have something there?
There's a picture.
There's a picture of them, right.
Yeah, it
They're
doesn't
pretty,
say the
they're
exact
good
size.
sized
Yeah.
tanks.
Very good, yep, very good size.
Is there any questions in regard to the resolution? And again, it is being sent on to the council with a recommendation to approve from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 11/2018 interim use permit for outdoor storage Northland Drying at 100 Henderson Road.
Second.
Resolution 11-2018 has been introduced by Councilmember Yashewski. The resolution then is the interim use permit outdoor storage for Northland Drying at 100 Henderson Road. It was duly seconded by Councilmember Highland. And is there any further discussion? Hearing none, a vote by roll call. Councilmember Highland.
Yes.
Councilmember Hattlestead.
Yes.
Councilmember Yashewski.
Yes.
Councilmember Cowell.
Yes.
All in favor? None opposed? One council member absent. Resolution 12-2018, State Aid for Local Transportation Resolution approving the county project on County Road 117 within the municipal corporate limits.
Council members, earlier you had approved the Sibley County going ahead with some construction projects located on that portion of the road south of the railroad tracks. Now this project is actually being done north of the railroad tracks. So the south portion is CASA 17, the north portion is County Road 117. So this is, as included in your packet, information from Tim Becker, the Sibley County engineer, says this is a good project in the city's best interest. So looking for your approval to go ahead and give them permission to proceed with construction.
Just for clarification, does it start at Highway 5 or does it start at the railroad tracks, which is south of Highway 5, a number of 100 feet?
I believe it's actually north of Highway 5.
Highway 5, okay.
Yep.
That was my understanding from the sketch also,
Yep.
that went from there and then past the burner addition, just past the burner addition.
And from Highway 5 to south of the railroad tracks, is it the other project?
The other one starts at the railroad tracks and goes to the four-way stop on Main Street.
Correct.
So the section from north of the railroad tracks, which would include the bridge, to the south edge of Highway 5 is nothing, neither project would affect that at all.
Oh,
Yeah, that is coming with a larger project.
all right.
That is coming when the bridge is replaced, which I think is scheduled for 2019 or 2020, depends on the funding, I believe, but it's,
No, we've been talking about
Yeah.
that getting done.
yeah,
right?
that will all be done when that bridge gets replaced with, and that will be a larger project than either one of these. So,
And I should note that in looking at this construction project, I did talk with Jason Femright, who did look into what we've got planned going into the future, and said that, you know, we don't have any future plans to do anything there, so go ahead with the construction. If we did have some improvements planned, we would try and coordinate it all at the same time, so that we don't end up doing a project 1 year after they have recreated or improved the road surface. So everything was clear to go ahead from that perspective.
okay, does anyone wish to introduce Resolution 12?
Resolution 12/2018, State Aid for Local Transportation Resolution, approving county project on County Road 117 within municipal corporate limits.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Highland introduced Resolution 12-2018 and was seconded by Councilmember Hattlestead. And the resolution again is State Aid for Local Transportation Resolution approving county project on County Road 117 within the municipal corporate limits. Is there any further questions? If not, a vote by roll call. Councilmember Yashewski.
Yes.
Councilmember Hattlestead.
Yes.
Councilmember Cowell.
Yes.
Councilmember Highland.
Yes.
All in favor? None opposed? One councilmember absent. All right, moving on to unfinished business. Need some signatures for Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development.
The city of Arlington applied for a grant in the amount of $66,275 through the Greater Minnesota Business Development Public Infrastructure Program. This money will be awarded to the city in response to a project summary that was submitted. Basically, that money will be used to provide access to the 6.46 acre site on the northeastern side of town. That will be used for Semstone Products Company. So what I'm asking for is a signature to go ahead on that grant agreement. So, any further questions, I can certainly answer that.
Did you read all 52 pages of it?
I did not, but I have the project summary right in front of me, and it's not even 52 words.
That was a long one.
It was.
And this again was part of the Semstone project that was applied for, and the money, of course, has been used for that project already, and the city is simply getting reimbursed for it.
I'll make a motion to authorize signatures on the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development Greater Minnesota Grant Agreement for the Arlington Circle Drive Business Development Public Infrastructure Project. I guess that's a resolution.
Yes, it is.
Resolution 13-2018.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Cowell introduced Resolution 13-2018. It was seconded by Councilmember Highland. That again is authorized signatures on the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development Greater Minnesota Grant Agreement for Arlington Circle Drive Business Development Public Infrastructure Project. Is there any questions on it? If not, vote by roll call. Councilmember Cowell.
Yes.
Councilmember Hattlestead.
Yes.
Councilmember Highland.
Yes.
Councilmember Yashewski.
Yes.
All in favor, none opposed, resolution is adopted, one council member absent. And then lastly, this is not a resolution, authorize Amy Newsom to write grant application.
The Economic Development Committee had some discussion about options for satisfying desire to do a housing study. One of the options that came up was possibly writing a grant to Compeer, who has been very gracious in the past and provided us with some funds to do some different things. The recommendation coming from the EDA is to go ahead and look at writing another grant to see if we can use some of those funds to assist us with the housing study. In talking with Amy and just sharing some of the concerns, one of the issues that we currently have is that we do have an outstanding grant right now with Compeer, and that's for our strategic planning, which was something that we are scheduling for the upcoming months. And so we're not exactly sure how that's going to play into requesting an additional funding for the housing study. But what we're looking to do at this point is to get further information and clarification on whether or not we can do that. And so if Amy can have your authorization at this time to go ahead and start writing that study and asking those questions. She didn't want to, start asking those questions without having your authorization first. So,
Okay, and again, this is coming from EDA committee in regard to a housing study. And the decision was made a few months ago to go it on our own for a housing study, and personally, I feel that was the right decision. So I think this is just a step in that direction.
Well, I'd make a motion to authorize Amy Newsom to be, to write a grant application to come here for funding to complete the City of Arlington housing study.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Yashewski, second by Councilmember Hattlestead to authorize Amy Newsom, Arlington Economic Development Director, to write a grant application to Compeer Financial for funding to complete the City of Arlington housing study. Is there any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Motion carried, 3 votes to 1, with 1 council member absent. All right, moving on to new
That
business.
was interesting.
I didn't get any chance to talk.
Had you comments, you had comments to make before
No, that's right.
Do we know how much the grant is gonna be looking to?
I believe it's 2,500, 3,000 is typically what they award for grants.
It's sort of a matching thing, right? I mean, city would have to put up the balance or the other half at least, or whatever.
Yeah, yep, I
That's
believe
what
so. Previously, the fire department had been awarded a grant, and I think they got about $3,000 to buy some thermal imaging
Right, I remember that.
camera or something, so, yep.
Okay, moving to new business, item 12, 2018 city council goals. Little different process this year. I think you have a copy of this in front of you. In past, the mayor has put together the goals and come back to the council and said, well, this is what I think. What I did at the last meeting is told you that I wanted to know what you think. So that's why I asked for contributions of ideas from the council members, and I appreciate the input that was given. City Administrator Melvin and I got together and looked over the items, and what we tried to do is pick out the ones that, you know, were the most popular, the ones that maybe were mentioned by the most council members, and something that, you know, we thought was achievable, or that we had talked about and been in favor of moving forward. Those are the ones that probably made the list. So with that in mind, I guess I'll just go through it, and for the public, this is what the city projects are, what we're looking at for this year, at least what's being requested or requested for approval. The first one is approval of the rental property ordinance. I know the planning and zoning has been working for many, many months on this topic, and it is a complicated and involved step to take, but one that they feel is very important, one that our city building inspector has weighed in on and feels also that it is very important that something gets put in place. Neighboring communities already have taken the step and have some type of rental property ordinance. We have none at this point. So we hope to get a recommendation or movement from the planning and zoning. What is needed on that is they have to request a hearing, and then I believe, it's my understanding that when the city council gets the topic, they would also have to request a hearing on it. So it's a quite involved process, but we hope to move forward with that. Again, it'll be based on when the planning and zoning sends it our way after some further consideration by them. Item 2, negotiate an easement acquisition agreement for the South Industrial Park. We've been talking about this for a number of years. We see that it's possible now, and probably optimistically more possible than it has been in the past, that we can finally get access to our industrial park. So that is going to be, moving forward, and as soon as we can get together with the parties concerned. Strengthen community-wide police communication system. This is something that was brought to our attention by Police Chief Pedersen, and something that we are very seriously of the opinion that it needs to be addressed, so that no matter where in the city of Arlington our police officers are, they have radio coverage. And so this is another project for the year. And again, a very involved one, and potentially a very expensive one. We hope that that doesn't come true, but we don't know at this point yet. Construction of new gazebo at Memorial Park. That was something that was tossed around last year when the plans for Ridgeview's expansion became known. They did inform us that the gazebo had to go. In other words, a gazebo that was located in Memorial Park. After some inspection of it, it was determined it couldn't be moved, so it was physically dismantled, taken down, and at that time, Ridgeview reimbursed the city for what that structure was worth to rebuild. So this is the year we need to get that done, and our Parks Committee is counting on it, and I know a number of people that I've come across in the community are asking, where's the new gazebo going and when is it going up? So this is something that probably you'll see an ad in the paper or an invitation for bids in the paper, because I had visiting with the local people at the lumberyard. They said it's very important to get that on somebody's plate early. I'd be looking at probably completion by June 1st. And if we let it go too long, we're going to run into a problem like we did last year with calling for bids in September, and nobody would even look at it. They were just, their plates were full for the rest of the construction season. So we're hoping to get a few competitive bids in there by putting it out early now. Working with Arlington Township to secure new orderly annexation agreement. The old annexation agreement did expire in August. I will certainly take some blame for that with the situation with the city administrator changing and other issues with staff openings, and our time just really taken up a lot with filling open spots in our staff. That date came and went without any action. So again, that is something that, and according to City Attorney Arneson, it probably is something that would have virtually had to be rewritten anyhow. The risk we run now is that Arlington Township may not be interested in doing it, and I mean we have to have the other party has to be interested in moving forward with it. So hopefully we can make a strong case for the fact that it's not only good for the city of Arlington, but there are some benefits to the outlying township jurisdiction also. So we'll try and move forward with that. Lastly, in this city projects is develop city staff and streamline the organization, and I'm going to turn that over to City Administrator Melvin for some comments.
I think that kind of plays into, this most recent decision that we made here with utilization of some of our EMTs and some of our paramedics to help fill some of the staffing challenges that we're currently encountering. Looking to incorporate them as well as develop some of the new department head positions that we're having going forward to try and streamline and see what additional is needed to create a smooth running organization, maybe avoid some of the duplication of efforts, and really hopefully getting us running very smoothly. So we're excited about the possibilities that that we are fully staffed right now, and we've got a good team, so, we hope that this is going to show a lot of success and enable us to achieve a lot of things that you as a council have asked for, so.
Are we gonna enact the resignation moratorium until further notice?
You can probably get 5 seconds for that.
Good point, good point. Yes, we're not looking at any of that this year, so you never know, though.
Just lock your door.
Yeah.
You think someone's coming in and we wanna keep them, don't talk to them.
All right, then down at the, below the city projects is our items that we feel are in the area of the EDA committee projects, and they are interested in knowing what we would come up with that they can put on their list of goals for the year. First item there is complete a diversified housing study, and of course that will depend on funding and that type of thing, so that will be something that we hope can be completed during the year, funding available. Retention and attraction of businesses, that's an ongoing one with the EDA, and I purposely put retention and attraction. I put retention first because I think it's more important to keep the businesses we have than it is to attract new ones. Certainly attracting new ones is always something that we should be striving for, but the retention is comparatively such an easy thing. If we can deal with some of the issues that business owners have and address those and keep them going in their businesses as a viable entity. Next one is continue to assist businesses with succession efforts. EDA Director Newsom has done a terrific job with sort of searching out those businesses where there's a great possibility that there's going to be a change in ownership or a change in the organization of that business in the near future, and has identified owners that are interested in looking at business succession, and whatever we can, we as a city and as the EDA committee can help them with, such as the meeting coming up on the 23rd, which hopefully will answer some questions and give some of those business owners some direction as far as keeping their businesses alive and you know, thriving business for the next owner. And then lastly, successfully marketing and selling the TSE building. It is listed with Fahey Real Estate out of Norwood Young America, and so it's good to see there's signs up there letting people that come through on the highway know that that building is available, and hopefully we will see some action in that regard. So this of course will be forwarded on, these 4 items for the EDA committee to deal with and plug into their goals for the year. I guess so with that, is there any comments or questions? I would like, I guess when we're all done, approval by the council to.
I have one comment, I think, on the EDA committee projects, retention and attraction of businesses. Retention, how to keep a business in town. And the big thing is the local people have to support that business. If that business is not selling screwdrivers or donuts or body work or mechanical repair to the people in town, they're gonna leave. And then people are gonna go, where can I get a hammer? You know, so it's, being a businessman, you don't know how important it is to have the local people come and patronize your business. Because without the local people, then you really have to start stretching out. In the last 2 or 3 years, I've been kind of keeping track. My computer program, I can track sales by zip codes. And about 16% of my business has come from the 55307 zip code, 16%. And the rest of it has come from elsewhere. So it's important, if you want to retain the businesses, you have to support that business. You know, if you can save 20 cents by going to Mankato to get it, don't go to Mankato, support your business. It's imperative.
Very good, good comments.
Has the city ever supported, or have they ever had a buy local campaign that they've done throughout the city to,
I think
or the businesses stepped up to say, you know, is that something that's been tried? I mean, that's,
I think the chamber has done some promoting of local businesses, but I don't think the businesses have gotten together to put a program that I know of.
Well, the one thing, if you look at the businesses, the businesses themselves really, I mean, the Fright Night, that's pretty much all on the businesses themselves, you know, that's a huge draw that people can walk up and down the street, and those businesses, they're kind of forced to be out there, but it's a good publicity for them, and it's good for the community to have that. So without businesses, that would be something that'd be going away. And also the Arladazzle, without the support of local businesses and how much money and effort they put into their displays, you know, that's also very important.
Just a comment, Editor Mink has done a wonderful job, I think, by the ones that get the paper know that you know, that message is getting to them loud and clear to do business locally, because I appreciate the fact that does appear in the paper, and I know you're a strong proponent of it. Any other comments regarding the goals and action items before you? If not, I would like you to put your stamp of approval on them by a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2018 Arlington City Council goals and action items.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilmember Cowell, second by Councilmember Yashewski to approve the 2018 Arlington City Council goals and action items. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion is carried. One council member absent. All right, then, item 12A, the one that was added, authorized change in Parks Committee meeting frequency. Parks Committee currently meets on a month, and has as long as, I don't know, well, as long as I've been mayor, but maybe longer than that. They meet on a monthly basis. Was looking through the, yes, indeed, I do look through the city code once in a while. And, come on, where are we here? Okay, under the city code, under Parks Committee, which would be chapter or whatever, chapter 4.03, item D. Parks Committee meetings, it says Parks Committee shall meet whenever its chairman deems appropriate, but no less often than quarterly. In other words, they have to meet at least quarterly. They meet on a monthly basis now, and I would like the council to discuss and hopefully change their meetings to a quarterly. There's been quite a number of times when Vicky Pamplun will send out a note, is there anything for the agenda? And there's nothing, so they call the monthly meeting off anyhow. I do believe that Kirby Weckworth would appreciate the fact that he doesn't have to attend 12 Parks Committee meetings, but only maybe 4 a year. So I would like to go according to city code and go back to meeting quarterly. They can always call special meetings if there is a need for anything, for something that, you know, in between that, but now they do have a meeting coming up Monday night, and I would like to, visit with them about that, but I think it's the council's decision to recommend that they go back and follow the city code and go back to quarterly meetings.
I agree with you 100%. I know I'm not on that committee, but when I have attended the meetings, sometimes there isn't even a lot.
There's not much there.
There's not much on the
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah.
I was sitting a couple months looking at all these committees, wondering why do they all have to meet so, I mean, every time they meet, sometimes they're doing nothing and it's costing the city every meeting. I don't know why that couldn't be, like I said, if you set it up quarterly, if something big come up, they could always add a monthly meeting.
Exactly, yeah.
But to just keep having them one every month and have 7, 8, 9 people show up and pay them all for really not
For
doing
attending,
a lot,
yeah.
because there's nothing on the agenda. We're just,
I'll second that motion. Was that a motion?
that was a motion.
Okay.
Or did you
Okay.
have more to say?
I was done, I was just rambling on.
I noticed that.
Okay, there's a motion by Hattlestead, second by Highland then, to authorize a change in Parks Committee meetings and go back to the, meetings according to city code, that being quarterly. Is there any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried, and I will relay that information to the Parks Committee on Monday night. All right, moving then into miscellaneous business, council member or committee updates. Any committees to report on?
Well, in regard to what we just voted on, even the hospital board has cut back to 6 meetings a year. So, other committees feel they don't need to meet as much either.
No, you know, I mean, just to elaborate on that a little bit, last year, we do have a, community center committee, and they didn't meet at all last year. They didn't have a need to. There was nothing that they really needed to get together as a group and decide, so.
There was one group email about the color of the back wall there.
Oh, was
That
there?
it,
Yeah, yeah, and that was handled without a meeting, so.
Should we move council meetings to quarterly?
Oh,
About a
yeah,
day and a half long.
That's right.
yeah. Any committee, any committee meetings to report on?
I think as far as the EDA that I'm on, you pretty much covered that. Police committee, we haven't met. I learn more here tomorrow. The cable commission, what I'm on, I'm still waiting for the new contract agreement with MediaCom. And I've talked with Attorney Arneson, and as soon as I get, unless Russ, you have received a copy?
I am not.
No, I've had 3 emails in the last month, and I'm still waiting for one. But I have a meeting with him next week, and I'm gonna beg for one. And then I'm gonna meet with Ross, go through it again, and then I will have some kind of an idea of the direction.
Okay, thank you. Any other meetings?
I can just maybe give you a quick update. Met this morning actually with Valerie McCallahan from the DNR tree grant. So Arlington was very fortunate that we received a 3-year tree grant in the amount of $30,000. It expires in early in 2019. Working with Kirby, we sat down and we talked about kind of where we're at and where we're going. One of the challenges that we encountered in 2017 was that we had submitted a bill in the amount of about $26,000 for trimming around power lines, which we thought would be reimbursed through this grant and would obviously have taken a sizable chunk of that grant money. Found out that that was not eligible for reimbursement. So we went from, having 26,000 back to about 5,000 that we're able to get reimbursed. So again, it's a 3-year grant. We've probably been reimbursed about 10,000 of the 30,000. We're currently working to try and identify an additional $20,000 in tree. It's tree projects, but it also really is enacted when you get citizens participating in tree type activities. There's a limit of up to 5,000 for any one activity. We've had a lot of discussions about what we can spend that money on, and I think what we're gonna try and do is we're gonna try and work with the tree committee, Jim Kraft, and pull in some other individuals. But if any of you have ideas of projects that we can do, significant things that we can do to try and get that money, in our discussion, we said that, you know, we certainly wanna access that money and be able to use it. However, we don't want to come up, you know, looking at the end of 2018, 2019, not being able to spend that money. And Valerie confirmed for us that, yeah, the last thing we want is to go back to the legislature and say, City of Arlington, you know, had $30,000 available to it, but only spent 10,000. Is this a program that's worthwhile of funding, you know, next year? They may say the need isn't there. So, my hope is to have a meeting, get a lot of people brainstorming around the table about how can we spend this money. If we come to the unfortunate decision that the City of Arlington doesn't have a venue to spend that money, one of the challenges again is that we've had several pruning sessions. We've tried to get members of the public, citizens engaged in participating. However, the participation has been relatively low. So if anybody has ideas or wants to share some thoughts on possible projects, I'd be more than happy to run it up the flagpole, run it by the state, and see if there isn't a way that we can come up with getting citizens involved and also spending money wisely for trees within the City of Arlington.
Is the current inventory program that is being, I mean, we had a good start on it in 2017, but there's a lot more to do in 2018. Identifying public trees within the city, is that part of the program?
Yep, and
Okay.
that's the part that Jim Kraft and I believe the
Yep.
Boy Scouts are working on.
Boy Scouts
so-
are instrumental in it.
Yep, so I need to check in with him and see kind of where he's at with
Okay.
that project.
Yeah, I know I was involved in it this year too, and I was trying to think about percentage-wise of trees in the city, how many we've recorded, and I would bet we aren't at 15%, 20% maybe. So when we get into the older part of town, southern part and eastern, where there's a lot of boulevard trees, that's where it's gonna take some time, but that's where the most numbers are, so we have a good start on it, and I just was wondering if that was part of the program.
You know, one of the challenges in talking with Kirby is that, you know, you purchase these trees, well then, you plant these trees, well then there's also the ongoing maintenance of watering them. Very seldom
First
you
few
plant a
years.
brand new tree, can you just plant it and let it go? So additional time watering unfortunately is not one of the things that gets
That isn't.
reimbursed.
Okay.
Not when it's done by paid staff.
A
Now,
volunteer.
Kirby, we're willing to volunteer his time, which may be another,
Okay.
another challenge.
Does the money include purchasing of trees?
Yes, for certain eligible trees, it includes purchasing those trees.
Does it matter about
includes-
size?
You know, we did ask the question about whether or not we could get bigger trees, which would be more expensive. They tend not to wanna fund those because they say typically if you buy the root trees. Bare root trees, you know, you may buy a bigger tree, but that bigger tree, when it's get planted, is going to go through some stress. And oftentimes that bare root tree will catch up or even sometimes exceed the growth over time of that bigger tree. So they are more in favor of doing the smaller bare root.
Do they provide the bare root trees, or do we have to purchase them
We purchase them.
from the DNR, or where do they come from?
We have several options. I think we've purchased them from this old house, Conkeys,
Bailey's.
Bailey's. We purchased them from a variety of different places.
So we pay for the trees, but then that's one of the things that we can get reimbursed for later.
Yes, if we get the species of tree,
Mm-hmm.
the native species is what they're reimbursing us 100% for. If we get a tree that is not a native tree, then we're using it as our cash match, which is part of the grant requirement, is that we
Okay.
match it with our own
Yeah,
funds.
we get back to that approved list that I think I had given you, Jim. Somebody gave the approved list for trees to
Yeah.
Mr. Brinkman.
Right, I
Yeah.
remember seeing that.
Yeah, and that's.
But that's got a pretty good variety.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
There's
on
quite,
there.
if you want, you can find a tree. I
Yeah.
looked at it, I thought I could find a tree in there
Yeah.
easily to put in my yard.
And you're pretty fussy, so you.
Sometimes.
Well, and that's where another thought was, could we plant it around the perimeter of the industrial? I mean, I
Oh,
don't know if
yeah.
that's, but there again, it gets to more watering for Kirby and Mike, and hopefully, I don't know if there's an option for us to, working with the EMTs, that's using paid staff to water trees, which is not what the,
yeah, they don't want
Program
that.
is
They want
about.
volunteers watering trees ideally.
yep, if we could find some volunteers and we could perhaps, buy, not necessarily the trailer, but buy the tank that goes in the back of a pickup or in the, on the trailer, they would pay for the tank. So, but yeah, so there's $20,000, so if anybody
Okay.
has ideas, please share, and we will get a committee together on the shade tree, and maybe a few council members, if anybody has a
Yep.
special interest in that, please let me
I
know.
would definitely.
So,
Okay, any other
thank you.
updates? Moving to open discussion, any update from Johnson Control? Have we heard anything?
Other than Attorney Mickelson had reported back to me some time ago, he'd had no response.
Okay.
So he was sending a pointed email to their chief legal counsel.
Okay,
Kind of went over the heads of the people that we've been dealing with in the past. And actually, I think I have a reminder coming up this Friday to check with Mickelson again to see if he's got any response.
okay.
He and I joked that I had contacted him to ask him if he'd gotten the $200,000 check yet.
Yeah.
And he said, at first he said, yes, I did. And of course, we both laughed, but anyway, yeah, he did make a follow-up, and I don't know if he's gotten a response.
Okay. All right, any other discussion items?
Have we learned anything in regards to the costs of the work that was done at the fairgrounds? Didn't that run way over the bids,
Oh,
if I remember correctly?
What's the latest on
Has we
that?
got any response back from them?
Yeah, we found out that, the cost seems to be excessive, and I think the next step is to approach them and to say, Jason Femright came back after having looked at it and said how he could see the cost going up. I believe it was about 3,000.
3,900.
Or 4,000, okay,
Yeah.
3,000, 4,000. So the next step is to engage them in that conversation of saying, we don't feel this bill is realistic. So I'll talk with Attorney Arneson and find out what the proper procedure or how to do that so that we
Okay.
do
Is this
that.
for putting the meter in at the fairgrounds?
Mm-hmm.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah, and it ended up almost doubling what it was initially.
Oh, didn't we have a
Bid
bid on
for it.
that?
Yeah, we
Yes.
did.
Was it a bid or an estimate? I guess there's,
It was a quote.
it was a
Yeah,
quote,
it was a number.
yeah.
As Pat and I have discussed, there's a rough rule of thumb, it's not a black letter law, but a rough rule of thumb established through many court cases that if you get a quote or an estimate, if that varies by 25% to the final bill, maybe okay. If it's more than 25%, it's questionable. And this was 100% more than the original quote, so.
Well,
Did they ever contact you in regards to this is going to cost more money? They just went ahead and did it.
Nope, and they went ahead and did it, and then when asked, asked to provide further justification for why the excessive costs, and they included this in their letter response, they indicated that, both, Louis and Lee were on site and authorized the additional cost. Louis was the individual who was on site. Lee was called out when they couldn't find the shut-off for the water line, and so Lee did end up showing up on site, but after the work had already been done. So even what they're relaying in the letter seems to be a little different from what really occurred.
Well, even if, I'm not Attorney Arneson by any stretch, but I would assume that talking to employees of People Services would not be giving them the approval of or the authority to spend more money without talking with the city administration.
That's exactly a subject Pat and I have discussed. And People Service is in the position of another contractor of the city. They have no authority to authorize change orders or expenditure of city funds. So,
When did the bill come in? Was that fairly recently, or
When did it come in?
is that quite a while ago?
I don't know, when did we?
2 weeks, 2.5.
something like that.
Yeah, at least 2
2.5
weeks.
weeks ago.
I'm sure it was that, because I remember I stopped in one day and I think we ended up talking. But
Yep.
that's gotta be all 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think at least 2 weeks ago.
I was, I guess, a month.
Yep.
Time flies.
Anything else? Motion is in order to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hattlestead, second by Councilmember Cowell to adjourn the meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No. Motion is carried. 7:47. Adjourned.
Fun by adjourning the meeting.
So early tonight.
And you have to go home.
Is your home the dugout?
Actually, my wife's been suffering pneumonia.
I don't know about you, Jim, but I thought that one of the goals we should have had on there was selling that Freedom Station, that Liberty Station there.
Yeah.
I mean, can we
Got
sneak
all
that in there
kinds of
still, do you
drugs.
think?
And where, here?
Yeah. In our
EDA goal to-
2018 goals,
As to what?
sell Liberty.
Sell Liberty Station.
It's already done.
She's
What?
ready.
Did you?
Is it?
Have a good evening, gentlemen.
Oh, that one meeting you said it's this close.
The same people there.
Yeah, well, the realtor called today and I'm gonna meet Thursday and hopefully Ernest Money will be there.
Your microphone's off, please.
Yeah.
Ross,
I'll turn mine off yet.
I got it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I got it.
Ross, I'll catch up with you later this week and we can talk about how that Jewel conversation should go or.
Was it Jewel or was it?
Jewel.
was different, that's why I
See, this is, yep, you're talking about that water main break that we got, built for an additional 3,000.
Yeah, I thought we went with Chard with the other one too. I thought we went with the same company that did the road for the fairground thing.
No, it was Jewel.
Okay.
It was Jewel. Remember that name if they ever bid on anything again.
Right, and that's, well, and see, and that's part of policy, we can't really, can you turn it down?
Yes, I think you can.
I mean, I think you can based on past history, like it's the lowest responsible bidder and we have the authority to decide what responsible is, I think.
Yeah,
But it's,
well, I don't know if I consider them responsible anymore.
right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think there's a bidding way that you can, the quality. Yeah, but you gotta be very careful how you do it. But I'm not sure exactly
just recently we had, didn't we take the second bid?